Sometimes simple is better. GameMasters here, and I've always used my website, GameMasters.com, and this YouTube channel to provide support to the small-time creator whenever I could. And while lots of what I cover is the behemoth known as Dungeons & Dragons, that honestly simply just brings in the views, I will always try to cover the smaller creator as well, because let's face it, those are the ones that really need our eyes and our support. I was recently asked to check out a role-playing game, an interactive dice game, that's pretty clever there, called Swords and Stones. It's not a massive tome of pages, only about 27 in all. And the coolest part, if you have ever played any kind of role-playing game, chances are you already know how to play Swords and Stones. Now, the guy that created this, Tim, reached out to me to check it out. And I'll leave a link down in the description as to where you can grab a copy of this yourself. But I wanted to go over the basics here with all of you guys. The opening section of this covers the index of what you can find inside. Things like general role-playing terms, the game rules, of course, how to create your character, combat, magic, stuff like that. In other words, you get the table of contents. What I really like about it is that Tim has put in here some funny little jokes, but in-jokes that are really more catered for us nerds, geeks, and role players, stuff that we'll really understand. Like this entry on what page to find your starting hit points. But it says, hit points, shields up. Invisible ones, kind of like that space show. Or like this entry on armor, how the heck do you go pee in that tin suit? Now, why do I like that? Well, it tells me honestly right off the bat that this is going to be a fun game to play, that it doesn't take itself too seriously, and that the game master running it can be a bit fast and loose with the rules and make it their own. Now, one thing to note, this game references the DM, GM, or the narrator as a game host, a GH, a game host. Now, examining the character sheet pretty much tells us the basics of the game and its mechanics. You've got your player's name, the character's name, along with their stats. And I know some of you are going to say, gosh, that looks a lot like a standard D&D sheet. Oh, no. Okay, so in Swords and Stones, you are a classless character. Not saying that you guys don't have class. You guys are always going to have super cool class. Just that you're not locked into playing a class like a wizard or a warrior. Stuff like that. Not that kind of class. You want to sling spells, pick locks, heal yourself, and swing a sword? By all means. With this game, you can do all of that in one character. To determine your stats, the strength, intelligence, wisdom, dexterity, constitution, charisma, you roll a d6. No, sorry folks, no natural 18s here, but you might get a natural 6. So each stat is a 1d6. Alternatively, you can roll 66 all at once and just pick and choose when which single die goes to which corresponding stat. From there, you can roll your traits, your height, skin type, hair type, and whatnot. Of course, you can also already have all of that stuff in mind without needing to roll, but the tables are there should you just want to have a truly random character. You can also randomly roll for your armor, weapons, as well as starting equipment. Now, during combat, you'll dish out damage based on the weapon or spell that you used, and as you gain levels, you'll be able to add that. You'll be able to add to that damage by adding 1d6 to the previous amount every second level. Speaking of gaining levels, experience is very simple. Each time you earn 1,000 experience, you go up a level. And while there is a basic chart showing examples of how much XP different things can award, ultimately, it's up to the game host to determine how much experience you get for accomplishing that task or killing that monster or whatever. Now, before we move deeper into Swords and Stones, I first need to thank these creator supporters. Cannot thank them enough for their contributions to this channel, as that gives me a bit of freedom with my videos so that I don't have to take on sponsored ads. If you would like to throw support here by becoming a Patreon or YouTube member, I'll leave a link down in the description, and of course, I'll add your name to this ever-growing list. As you play this, you'll adventure in a land known as Ambien. No, not the sedative, but check this out. Ambien is considered to be an alternate universe, one where humans don't naturally exist. They get there via a portal known as the Veil, and humans that do show up in Ambien can be of any era of time, of any culture, of any race from our own world. Occasionally, you may encounter humans in Ambien that have set up trade posts or villages, but they too have arrived there at some point by passing through the Veil. Could be years ago. There are, however, several inhabitants native to that land. For example, the Erufru, that would be the equivalent of what we would know as elves. The Dakru would be what we would understand to be orcs. The Gokru would be what we understand as lizard folk. And there are many others that dwell here as well, in Ambien as well. But even within the rules, the game host is encouraged to add or modify monsters and inhabitants that live there to however they see fit, whatever works best for their table. There is another area in Ambien known as the Down Under, and this area is more for characters of an advanced level. You'll encounter the Durufu, these would be like the Drow, or the Mukru, somewhat akin to trolls. And of course there are other monsters that dwell here as well, but then there is a third area known as Darmandu, which roughly translates into the Forbidden Zone. And I'm not going to chat too much about that because, well, honestly, some things in here need to remain a mystery, but you can check out that stuff in the game for yourself. I'm also not going to get into the mechanics of combat here, but it's fairly light. There are DCs, difficulty challenges to meet or beat, and of course if you have modifiers you can add those too. But overall, combat flows very smoothly and quickly, and with various wins in combat, there is always the chance to find loot and treasure and all kinds of fun goodies. Towards the back of Swords and Stones is a group of tables to help you build out dungeons, which provides everything from what the dungeon smells like to kind of what it sounds like, the overall atmosphere to where monsters are roaming and well, where treasure might be stashed. And provided is a cool reference sheet for you to pencil in what all is in that dungeon, just so that you can keep track of it. And that's it. Again, it's not an overly complex system and it's open enough to allow for adjustments by the game host to do as they see fit for their gaming table. The rules are not locked in, and I think that's the part that I really like about it. For me, it takes the best elements of role-playing and puts it into a compact little book. Of course, I printed this out, but it'll be a PDF that you get, so that really all you need is this for reference, some dice, a pencil, your imagination, and that's pretty much it. Well, a couple of players. Or you could even do this solo. And I think that Swords and Stones is pretty fun. Tim is doing updates to it, so things may morph during the course of development. The guy simply has a passion for it, and it shows. Again, if you're interested, I'll leave a link to where you can get a copy of this down in the description. Talk to me in the comments. What do you ultimately want out of a rules-light role-playing game? What would make it something that would appeal to you? Again, comment below, and until next our paths cross, may your stones keep your swords sharp.